Yeah. Thank you, Steffi. Well, it's always great to be at DLD, and our panel is called Inclusive Leadership. Gear up your company. And I would like to ask on stage first Ana-Cristina Grohnert, who is a managing partner at Ernst & Young, and she, welcome, Ana. She also shares the board of the Diversity Charter Initiative, and she works with many high-profile clients in the financial and other industries, so she has a lot of insight on what we're going to talk about. Second, John Gerosa, please join us on stage. Anna said he looks like a rock star, and I think he does, yeah. So John is the sales director for Google Germany, and he's also the sponsor for something he's hiding right now for women at Google. Yeah. So we're going to talk about that. Okay, take a seat. And we'll talk about, we've heard about global trends, and we want to talk about how organizations, how we work together will change, how leadership will be affected by it, and what the role of men and women in the future of work is going to be. There will, if we have time, the opportunity for questions at the end, so if questions come up, please keep them in mind so you can throw them at us. Anna, we heard about digitalization from Gabi Zedelmeier this morning, and we know about all the global trends. What is one of the biggest changes that is coming towards us as we will see work in the future?
Yeah, Gabi mentioned so many big changes. That's amazing, and I think listening to her, we know that there's a lot of work to do. Everything is changing. She had this one sentence, business as usual is over. Yeah. So if we look at how we work right now, it could be that we don't have an office in the future anymore. Someone can imagine that. Yeah, some of you are already there, but if Steffi is asking where the big corporations, I think there's a lot of change to be done. We will work totally flexible in time, in place, in career. And we have this huge generational conflict right now because their part of it is still working in the comfort zone, and the other part will ask for this change right now.
John, can you think of any industry that's not going to be affected by digitalization or deeply transformed?
No.
No. Can you, Anna?
No.
Okay, just wanted to confirm that because I'm still searching if I can think of an industry that can afford to stay the same. So we right now think that's not going to be the case. I'm a scholar, and I research the changes that will come towards organizations, and one of the biggest changes may be related to the democratization of organizations. So the idea that employees not just own their company or parts of their company, but also elect their leadership and take part in major strategic decisions. John, what's your take on this? Is this going to be real? Is this idea of organizations as mini democracies going to affect work and leadership in the future?
I think absolutely, and Gabrielle did an excellent job this morning giving some color to that in terms of is an idea, sharing. And when you think about sharing, what that also means is our employees, and especially the next generation, are going to expect us to listen because they want to share their ideas and they want to share their feedback on how we're operating as an organization, how we're operating as a leadership team. So it's already there. I don't think that we're doing enough that we could be doing, but I see that as one of the key trends and a challenge from a leadership perspective. And with that also comes accountability.
Do you do that at Google? Do employees elect the people who are going to lead teams?
We don't, indirectly we do. So there are two instances on an annual basis. First, at the beginning of the year, part of our employee survey, where you're asked to rate your manager. Okay. And then 6 months later, we have a more specific upward feedback survey that's focused purely on your manager, and evaluating your manager, giving your manager feedback. And if the results, that also feeds in, I'm a manager, I have managers in my team. Then if there is a shortcoming, then we work on implementing a development plan. So I think indirectly it's happening today.
Okay. Okay. Anna, what's your thought on this?
It will be there. Especially the demographic change will make it there. So the leader will go into competition. Right now we think in boxes and hierarchies and control and demand. And in the future, the new generation will only work for someone inspiring, where I have a career value, where I can choose and change. So not the same team for the next 100 years, but looking at those inspiring leaders. That will be the change, yes. We are not there yet.
No, we're not. But it will be a big change, because if we have democracy in organizations like we have in our states, where we elect our national leaders, that means that power in organizations will not be given from top to bottom and passed down from top to bottom. It means it'll emerge at the bottom and be given to the top. So that surely will mean a big change for key competencies for leaders in the future. And we talked about what are some of the key abilities and competencies that leaders in the future will need. Anna.
Yeah, I just mentioned control and demand is over, and just spreading out little tasks so that people can work on it. You really have to be inspiring. You have to be very, very self-reflected, because you will meet a lot of people, a lot of different skill sets, a lot of personal preferences and like cultural backgrounds and perspectives. And if you just have the same style with everyone you meet, it will be difficult in the future. And then you can work every time on different tasks with different teams. So you have to be able to be flexible and reactive to everyone approaching you. And that will change as well in the globalization. So it could be a team is totally global or totally local and is spread over all kind of industries and competencies. So you have to be constantly reflecting yourself and what are you working in and what you're working for. So innovation will be the key, and it can only be there if we have those diverse perspectives. So just sticking to the same what you have done in the past will not be the solution.
Okay. John, what do you think about key leadership skills for the future?
I agree. For me, the key word is adaptive leadership. And especially when we look at diversity and gender diversity and ethnicity, we expect to have more diverse teams. And with that said, we as managers need to be aware of our bias, if we have any unconscious bias that's out there that also affects gender diversity, if you will, and adapt accordingly. So self-awareness, being in a position to adapt based upon a personality in your team, and not carrying the luggage with you, because we all know that we all come from diverse backgrounds, different backgrounds, and we're conditioned in our earlier years that we carry biases that we're not aware of. And it's important for us as managers to be aware of them and then adapt accordingly.
Yeah. Where can you learn these new required skills?
I think first from our teams. That goes back, and this is kind of like a circle, right? It goes back to listening to your teams, taking their feedback seriously, but also in a development program. We do something at Google that we've talked about, and right now in 2013 we had roughly 20,000 plus employees participate in unconscious bias, which is really important for us.
Okay.
I participated in something 2 weeks ago. It was an enlightening experience, an eye-opening experience. In DOC Senior Management,
what have you learned? What was enlightening?
Yeah. Well, it was, I think I can disclose it, a fishbowl exercise. And what that means is we had 10 plus female leaders in the room who were, first they were interviewed by a third party. We had a third party group on hand to ask them, to talk to them about their experiences as female Googler experience. And then what we did is senior management, we sat down, they sat in the inner circle, and they shared their insights and experiences for 90 minutes. Wow. And we said nothing.
Wow, you just listened.
We just listened. And I went through, as well as most of my peers, we had already gone through the unconscious bias training, but it was still, for me, we learned some things, and it was highly confidential what we discussed in that room, but it was evidence that we're not where we need to be. Even if you say, okay, I checked the box, I've accomplished my unconscious bias training, that's not enough.
Very interesting.
Yeah, I can only agree. I mean, leadership trainings was one of the most important things. You just have to put everyone in a room and say, what's your personal experience, and is that the experience your employees should have or your team members? And then you just reflect to what the changes have been. I mean, listening to Gabi this morning, I mean, there's so much change going on. And you're sitting day by day in your office. Some of us don't realize that this change is going on, so they don't reflect themselves towards those changes. So you just have to raise awareness. And then, like, DLD is perfect to learn about changes, because you just bring all your leaders from the companies to a DLD conference and listen to what's going on, and you just take all those energy back with you and saying, okay, we have to transform our companies, we have to get more flexible, we have to train new leadership skill sets, you have to have a global mindset. But what the difficult part of it is that we've just had it that fears will occur, because you have to leave your comfort zone. You have to reflect what made me successful in the past will probably be not the solution for the future. So you have to rethink of your self-positioning within an organization and society, and that brings you to, I mean, I see that day by day that people just say, oh no, we can't do it that way, we did it differently in the past, and it's just a way of sitting back and saying, oh, I will just look at what will happen, and later on I jump on the train, because otherwise I get uncomfortable, because I would be the front runner in change. So you have, for systematic change, you have to find people who want to be front runner, who want to be energized by change, and they're in those big corporations, you will have to find them very precise.
Now the panel is about inclusive leadership. That's a little bit of a vague term. What, how do you define it? How do you understand inclusive leadership?
Yeah, it's really difficult to explain because it's not a sad term, but what we described during the last 15 minutes is this inclusive leadership concept. I mean, you could easily say it's not exclusive, it's inclusive. So listen to all the perspectives that are in the room, even challenging different or filling up with more diversity, more mix to be more innovative. And then you have to moderate that mix, because if you just have a mix, it will not find the solution. But you have to have this leadership skill set to include all those perspectives to find the solution for your innovation. And you have to constantly do that. And this is inclusive leadership. You include all the perspectives, you take them out, and then you moderate. And you're still a leader. I mean, you really have to make the decisions, but you have to moderate on listening and not just deciding on your past experience with the same team over and over again, because then you don't get innovative.
John, how do you understand inclusive leadership?
Well, I think at Google, when you look at our product strategy, we've always believed, it's been core and part of our philosophy, is that diversity, diverse ideas, cultures, perspectives, equates to better products and services. You could then take that to the next step, that equates to better teams, to better leadership. Fact is, Google's not where we need to be today. We released the data early in the year. So if you look at gender diversity, and we know that diversity is broad, we're here today, I think, to focus on gender diversity. Globally, 30% females. When you look at tech, 17%. We have a lot of work to do there, not only within Google, I think within the ecosystem. Business is a little bit better, 48% on the business side. Leadership, however, 1 out of every 5 leaders at Google is a female, and that's not acceptable. So I'm going to come back to your question. So what does that mean for us? I think what it means for organizations is first being open about it and honest and sharing the data and acknowledging we have a problem.
Publicly?
Publicly.
Okay.
Internally is equally important. I understand some companies, and it took us some time, aren't in a position to release that data, but at least at the very least they should do it internally. Second, I think, is owning it. And what I mean by owning it is having the entire leadership team own it. It's so important for us at Google that it's part of our OKRs, part of our business objectives. And that's one of the reasons that I'm on this panel, because Annie Ronkin couldn't be here today. She asked me to sit in, and that's why I'm a sponsor of Women at Google. And I think the third part is being accountable for it. So I mean, we can talk all day about it, but the numbers are going to speak for themselves, and we need to move the needle, and I don't think we're alone.
So being open about it, sharing the data, owning it, and being held accountable.
Yeah.
In Germany, we've seen in the past years rise a number of female executives to the very top level of the boards, but not all of them stay there, as we see. So I would like to ask Anna, who is a very successful woman professionally, and also has I know you have a beautiful family, 3 children, and you have not only managed to make it to the top board of Ernst & Young, you've also managed to stay there for a very long time. Anna, please tell us, I mean, you have to say it these days. Anna, please tell us what's the formula behind this, so we can learn from you.
Oh, this is a very individual experience. It lasts over years, and it's difficult right now. We see all those publishing around those women who make it into the board, and then after 2 years, 3 years, or even so soon I have to leave again. And it's, of course, difficult from an outside perspective. But I think what made me stay
That's what we want to hear.
And it's like constantly learning. You know, I entered the board and I came in. I have some colleagues sitting here with huge bunch of facts and figures, business cases, changes, strategy, everything prepared, very content driven. With my own team was working on it. I just entered the room and say, here I am. It's my first day and I will tell you what we change in the future. And everything is prepared. So everyone was sitting there, yes. And there were like board members. You usually have pre-reads like a week early. And then you expect everyone read everything. So you realize after a while, probably not everyone read the whole presentation. Probably not all facts and figures made it into this room. So what's happening here? And this first disappointment, because you feel like, why don't they read what I did? Because I really took my time. I do that for the company. I do want to like go into transition for the future, everything we have talked about, and now I'm sitting here and say they don't read it. And probably they read half of it, but why aren't they prepared for just going in a discussion, having a common vision, and then moving onward with an action plan? And so it took me some time not to be like disappointed, don't take it personal, and then realizing that everyone has their own perspective because they have to, I have to be a little bit, they just have to maintain what they build up. So if you're just coming in there with all the facts and figures and you want to transform, it's like this fear, you know, what's in for me? What does it mean for my department? Does it really change in the right path? Is everyone prepared? Can we do that together? So you make your experience that you have to work a lot more on the relationship level up front. So after a while you sit together with each other and you talk about it and what's in for you, what's in for me, what can we move, and then you slowly build a shared vision. And that means you have to be totally flexible and you don't take things personal if they don't read things and or if they don't answer the same path you want to have the answers and go into action plans. You have to be a lot more patient. And then after a while, you get used to it, and it's really it's another way of relationship, another way of transforming companies. So you change your way of work. First, it's the speed and the being prepared and have everything read and everything done and know everything in the business case. And later on, you have an additional flow by knowing where is everyone with their personal perspectives, and then you net that together, and then you start moving things. It takes a little longer, so change is about, like, we all know the curve is 5 to 7 years, and we would all like to have that done after 2 years, but we have to get more patient.
Thank you. John, I was wondering, why does Google sponsor conferences like Women at Google, and why do you? Yeah, which is not your core business, you're a sales director. Why do you sponsor this initiative?
I mean, it goes back to what I mentioned earlier. So part of, I think, us moving the needle is having the leadership team take ownership. And that's clear at Google. And part of the diversity agenda is having employee groups that focus on different sets of diversity. So Women at Google would be one. We have Women in Engineering. We have a group for African Americans at Google. And Women at Google is actually our largest group, 6,000 members worldwide, 60 chapters covering 30 countries. And because it's an OKR for us right now, because we believe it's so important, not because it's an OKR, let's take a step back. We all know, and there's enough research out there to prove it, diversity is a good thing. And you look at business results, boards or management teams that are diverse tend to produce better results, whether it's sales, financial results. When you look at products, it's the same thing. And I, as an American who's lived in Europe for quite some time now, am still somewhat disappointed with the culture we have here. So to come back to it, which is why one of the reasons that I said...
What are you disappointed with?
I don't think, in America, I don't want to say that America is better. Just let's say in Europe and some of the things I observe in Germany, I think we have a lot more work to do in Germany when we look at gender diversity. I think and it's excellent. I mean, think about this. Before I set the negative tone here, Steffi and what she's done with DLD is outstanding.
Yes.
I mean, I think that's right?
Yes, it is.
So it's not... we know that there's an opportunity, and there's a huge network like DLD right now that's working on that. But if you look at the data, I think the data speaks for itself, that Germany's still a little bit further behind. And that's one of the reasons. So it's part of our objective, business objective, but also I have a passion for it. And I talked to Annie and to the Women at Google team to say, hey, I'd be more than happy to participate and support in any way. And it also holds for my boss as well. Philip Eustace is also very active in the Women at Google.
In your leadership careers, I would like to ask you, what were some of the good and some of the hard lessons that you have learned personally?
I mean, firsthand from.
I think I just mentioned it. It can happen every day. You have to constantly learn by reflecting on what just happened. And it's just a week ago that I was sitting there and confronted with people just being very backward-minded, and just breathe, take a deep breath, and then realize, I mean, there's somewhere in a corner you just have to get them out. But this is hard. It's like constantly hard to just sit back and say, you have here a vision, you want to change something, and there are people who just don't argue by facts, and I'm just sitting there and say no, or they don't say no, but they complain about the things that don't work, even though if the facts and figures show that it works. I mean, I will go on vacation next week, so it's constantly the way that you have to energize yourself again, and this is a very good group here to get a lot of new energy again, and being open-minded. So those experiences are sometimes hard. But I had great experiences as well.
You must have had. You have been highly successful. John?
So I think we need more role models.
Okay. What kind of role models?
Women in leadership positions that are in a great position and very effective at managing both their private lives and their professional lives. And I checked this with one of my team members who's here, by the way, today. So in my sector, the largest and most complex business unit's actually led by a female. Who had twins over the last 2 years. And I think she's an excellent role model in this instance because she's still not full-time, but she's extremely effective in managing her team, being there for her team when it's important, working with her clients, being there for her clients. But most important, first and foremost, is being there for her family. And that's something that I think is gender neutral. We can all do a better job at being role models in terms of managing the work-life balance. But we need more, and we have other examples, by the way. I don't want to say Karen's one of several people managers we have that are also in similar situations. Fact is, we need more. Okay. And for that to work, by the way, I think the other magic ingredient, if you will, is that the team flexes. And what's, I think, important, you know, Karen, when she was on, she first took her maternity leave and said, okay, I'm going to come back at this date. I was like, okay, I think that's maybe a little bit too fast, and that's also unconscious bias on my part. Who am I to judge if it's too fast? And then Karen decided, okay, maybe I want to come back a little bit later. And in that time, within the team, we actually had a rotation of 2 industry managers that actually rotated out to lead the team because they also had their paternity leave. So the team is also mission critical in that, to make that happen and make it work.
Any add-on?
Yeah, we just have to realize that not one size fits all. Everyone has their individual solution, and as soon as we as companies are as flexible to realize that, then we will move onward. As long as we take our personal perception of how things should work, it won't change. And this is so important that we work on that. And I don't like the term work-life balance anymore. Listening to Gabi, it's like it will be integrated everywhere. So it's just, to take that in balance, it's like you always feel like it's hard work, but if you just integrate work and life into each other as your individual perception is, as you like it, then it's a lot easier to get into the flow. So my children know that I'm here, so when I left yesterday, they just said, we would like to join you, and they know what I'm doing. So even though the children know exactly what the task is and what the vision is, and so everything is integrated, I think that's the future.
Yeah, I think my point was, what I wanted to make, and it's maybe taxonomy, is that being in a position to be disciplined on how you manage your week or manage your day, to create that balance between your private life and also your professional life. And to be fair, we had a discussion last night. We're not only talking about employees in a position where they have children. There are other aspects of that. As an example, your parents. Right?
We have time for a few questions. One question here. Do you have a microphone? Right over there. And a question back there. And a third one there. The first one's there. So we'll hear the questions one after the other, and then you can probably answer them together.
Hi. Hello. Is this on? Is this on? Okay. Hi. My name is Nahid. I'm an Afghan survivor of war from the Soviet times. I grew up in Canada, and I'm an international gypsy. I live in Munich at the moment. My question is to both of you, mainly for Google. John, I know that there are lots of problems that we spoke about, not even going further from Munich, from Germany. I live in Germany. I know this is not the reality of Germany. I love the Germans. Please don't take it badly that way, but this is not the reality of the outside. As you said, there's a lot of work to be done. I'm going to take it one step behind, and I'm going to say, my expertise is in the Middle East and the Afghanistan part of the world. Now, there are lots of women that are raising up in the digital world in Afghanistan and the Middle East, where they are really starting a huge revolution. We're talking about sharing values, we're talking about diversity, we're talking about cultural differences, which makes up this panel, basically. Wouldn't it be a great idea to actually use those women that are over there, that are hungry to actually do something in the leadership part of the world? Because this is not the world alone. The whole world is the world. Me, as an Afghan who speaks English und auch Deutsch, but wouldn't it be something for Google or big companies like that to actually go a little bit further and say, well, don't we have a lot of talents over there? Don't we have a lot of leadership people, like contestants over there?
Okay. Herr Antin, could you take the mic to the second who was back there, and then the third is there? Yes.
So we're not going to answer this on one-on-one. We're going to go through.
Short, yes.
So yes, and the world is flat, and our platforms are open. And yes, we could be doing more, and we have certain initiatives like Code with Women that are not designed for just one pocket of the world. So I think yes, and that would be an excellent example of us to double down and expand some of our programs, our outreach programs in place.
I can only agree. In addition that we have 170,000 employees in the globe, so I'm just having this German perspective right now here, but we have huge programs all over the world to bring entrepreneurship to the women in all countries over the world. So there are emerging countries, and we have this 3rd billion campaign. You know, the 3rd billion will be the production in growth. Just from the women perspective, so the women bring into GDP a 3rd billion, and there we gather all those ideas, startups, how we can support it pro bono, and how we include that in our entrepreneurship programs.
So, hello, my name is Anna, I'm German, I live in Switzerland, and it's for me, honestly, if I'm back in Germany, I'm wondering again. I'm also wondering about the gender discussion in Switzerland, but my question is actually, what is about the workplace change? Because, we're talking now about individuals, we're talking about women, and not talking about men becoming a father, and for instance, if you live in Scandinavia, for instance, in Norway, and you're still in your office at 5 o'clock, and everybody's wondering, here it is normal, and you're not a real man, or you're not competitive enough if you're in the office, I don't know, at 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening.
May I answer that real quickly? I can do this fast. I want to preface this by saying there is no question that we have a lot of work to do in terms of gender diversity. But to your point, I agree. I think a lot of the topics that we discuss also equate to gender-neutral topics, such as well-being instead of work-life balance. And this goes back to what Gabriella showed us this morning, is we need to be in a position to flex and to adapt to the new culture we live in and the new generations that are out there. So, sorry.
Yeah, We started the whole discussion about flexibility here with Steffi like 5 years ago, and it brought us to double part-time men working and everything into the workspace. We all have home office policies. We all work that for every employee. So this is why DLD is so great, because we started the discussion from a woman perspective, and right now every single employee can take part in flexibilization of place, time, in career within all our corporations. And I think that's great what we have done here with the DLD as well.
Absolutely. Anna, John, one last question. In one word, what should organizations do to gear up for the future? What should all of us, people, do to gear up for the future?
Encourage change. So really make the people move and not stay at the same time.
Encourage change.
Adapt and accountability.
And accountability.
Yeah.
Thank you both very much. Thank you for listening. It was a great panel.
Thank you.